What is up, guys? Welcome back to Vanover Machine and Repair. In this week's video, we are going to take a break from machining and do some talking. So if you want to sit back, relax, we're just going to update you guys on what is going on in the shop. We have a couple of events coming up that I think you'll want to hear about, and we'll just talk through some stuff going on in my life and give you a little bit of updates. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Back by popular demand, we are going to be doing another shop meetup. Now I know last year a bunch of you guys wanted to come but couldn't just because of scheduling, and maybe we'll get lucky and the stars will align this year and a couple of you guys can come that weren't able to come last year. So in terms of the date, we're going to be doing this on the 26th of September. We're going to be pairing this with our Arn Fest like we did last year. So Arn Fest is kind of a gathering where they go over steam engines, trains, a little bit of woodworking, a little bit of everything, some machinist stuff as well. And they do that in Union, Illinois, where there's a big train museum. So they have that going on from basically Thursday night all the way to Sunday, and we'll hang out here Friday, just kind of hang out at the shop, chill, talk. There's no real agenda, and then on Saturday we can roll out and head over to Arn Fest and kind of do whatever anyone wants to do over there, and just really spend time together. There's no real agenda here, but I value community, I value friendship, and honestly, the more people that I can interact with and get to know, I think it's just beneficial for both of us. And so I would really look forward to seeing and meeting you guys over here at our shop on the 26th. So if you want to come out to that, just do me a favor and either send me an email, vanovercustoms@gmail.com, or shoot me a text or call 847-890-9969. You can show up unannounced, but if you can, give us a heads up. That way, you know, we're not planning on 2 people and 50 people show up. 50 people won't show up, but you know, if we're going to get anything ahead of time, like some donuts or coffee, that way we kind of can be a little bit more prepared. So look forward to seeing you then, and we'll move on to the next topic. All right, you guys may have seen this in the background, and let's talk about this awesome freaking tool cart that we just made a couple weeks ago. So unfortunately, we don't have a video on this bad boy, but I did want to review it with you because it's super sweet. So I had this idea in my mind for quite a while. As you've seen before, we had the listed cabinet and we had 2 of these Miller style benches here just temporarily, and I wanted a good place to keep our tooling, to keep our steady rests, and make it an all one sort of combined area and make it super trick. Now, the reason we didn't do a video on this is because we were doing modifications on the lathe, and we are making a video on that, and we have a significant amount of modifications. This kind of fell in that category, and I was doing a ton of video work, and I just said, you know what, screw it, let me just bang this out and get it done. And I didn't want to make that other video too long. And at the end of the day, you know, it's just a box steel bench with a lot of cool features, but just didn't want to make a video on it. So it turned out way better than I thought. I actually wasn't going to paint it, and a friend of mine said, man, you got to paint it, and you got to paint it a crazy color, match all your other stuff. And you know, with the listed cabinet in there, because I had it in there at the time, it was extra work to mask everything off, but he was totally right. It turned out awesome. It looks super trick. It stands out, and it does a great job. So let me just kind of hit you with a couple of basic features. So the first kind of purpose for this was to have a place to store my tool holders. And we talked about this in a previous video, but originally on my other cart, I had the tool holders on the top, and on this cart, I was gonna make a back splash or a tray or something and have the tools up here, a divider, but Stefano was like, listen, you don't want to do that, you want the surface space. So even though having them on the counter is nice because it's convenient, if you can design it in a way that puts them underneath, then you can basically trade a little bit of convenience for a flat surface. And guess what? Stefano was right. So we ended up taking the tool holders and putting them underneath, and they're at a good height so that I can reach in here and just kind of grab them. And then if I'm working, I can set them up here, but at the end of the day, when I'm done, I can put them on this shelf. They're easy to access, but this area up here is very clean, and that has been really, really nice. You'll notice that this is also pretty tall. When I made it, I did the math, I did a CAD drawing, but when it was done, I was a little nervous. It seemed a little taller than I wanted, but as I've been using it, it is excellent. For a workbench, it's way too high, but that's not what this is. This is an area where I'm measuring stuff, where I'm setting tools, where I set stuff that I'm working with, so I'm not hammering on stuff, I'm not throwing up jobs up here. It's just basically like a work surface. And in that regard, for me being taller, it is absolutely perfect. And the extra height had allowed me to get these tool holders at a height where my arm is naturally, I can pull them out and I don't have to bend over. Ideally, maybe putting these in a drawer would have been cool, but the Lista cabinet that I have wasn't deep enough because these things are so bulky that I think this turned out real cool. So I keep all the main tool holders up here, all the boring bars down there, and then on the bottom I just have some storage for some extra stuff. The cart, pretty simple, you know, it's a Lista cabinet, but now we have the metrology stuff in the first drawer, which is super trick, and it's a really nice height, so I can literally stand at the machine, which you can't see, it's in front of me, and I can be right here and just open this drawer, grab the calipers or whatever. Really, really nice. I have the second drawer as the tool holders, the third drawer as the inserts. Everything is nice and organized. And then we have tools bespoke for this machine, like the exact size wrenches, the Allen keys, all that jazz. So this is turning out really nice. Now off camera, probably can only see the edge of it, but we have all of the drill chucks, all of the 40 taper tooling and the live centers stored over here. Maybe I'll give you a little shot of that. It's below the surface. It's easy to access. I can just come up here and grab it, but I don't have to worry about it rolling off, and it turned out really, really nice. Kind of the trick feature of this cart is the steady rest chuck holder. So we do have a crane that accesses this entire area. And I watched, I think it was Hal Heavy Duty. He has a video on his steady rest cart. That's a very common design that a lot of shops use, and it's an excellent design. But I really wanted to sort of combine all the ideas into one thing. And in this case, we put that steady rest cart into the bench, and I designed this kind of lid so that way my jib crane can come over here and I can lift this stuff up and I can put it on the machine, and then when I'm done, it's stored underneath a lid, keeps it from getting dusty and grimy, and it keeps it, more importantly, off the floor. So in this small area, I have the big steady rest, the small steady rest, the follow rest, the taper attachment, I have the faceplate and the 4-jaw chuck, and they're all accessible with this nice area. So that turned out really, really nice. And to top it all off, we just did a little bit of roll-on bed liner that I painted on, and it's really nice because for the tool holders, it gives it some grip. So if I do roll this around, I don't have to worry about tool holder sliding off. And for the top, it's nice because it's not damaging any parts. I've done some parts for Landon, they're aluminum, and I can set them up here, and it has kind of like a rubberized finish. So it grips the parts, it doesn't scratch anything, and it looks really, really nice. Here's a good shot of the side profile on this bench where we have all the storage. You can kind of see over here how close we are to the lathe. So I can definitely walk through here, get a pallet jack, do whatever I need to do. I don't really need to get the forklift through here because we have the jib crane. But if I had to, for some reason, this bench is on wheels, so I can kind of roll it around. But you can kind of see the ergonomics of where this is at and how it works out. So on to the next topic, and that is going to be how are we doing with the Lion lathe? Updates, issues, upgrades, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be as transparent with you guys as I can, but this is a little bit unfortunate. So I have been working with this machine for about 3 or 4 months at this point, probably only about 3, and there's been some issues. And I want to stress that Johnny and International Machine do an excellent job. Those guys work really hard. They are very attentive to my emails and calls, and they really do bend over backwards. And if anyone was going to buy a machine from them, the reason why you would buy that is first and foremost their customer service, in my opinion. However, the issues that I've had have absolutely nothing to do with those guys. The issues that I've had are design issues with the machine and or problems, and most of those issues I would categorize as either bad build quality or cutting corners or just poor design, and a couple of them have been what I would call mechanical issues, and we're working on that, so I'm not going to get too in-depth on that. Because we will have some standalone videos. Not only am I particular, which is true, but also I'm a machinist, and this is a machine for a machinist. So I think it is very reasonable, even though I am particular, to hold a high standard on this machine, because machining is a high standard field, and this is a very expensive high-level machine. So I don't think that I need to be making an excessive amount of excuses for it when there are shortcomings. Obviously, there's going to be some issues with everything and everything new. Nothing new is ever perfect, but I think, in my opinion, there's a list of things that I would have liked changed, and I am changing. That's not a problem. And then there's a list of things that are clearly, I think they need to improve on. So we'll get more into that down the road, but what I want to segue into is some of the upgrades we're going to be doing, just to give you guys a sneak peek so we can bring this machine to the best of our ability up to the Vanover machine standards, which is just as good as possible, full send, balls to the wall. Just to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek at what we're going to be doing on this machine in terms of upgrades and possibly even some repairs. The first biggest thing that I'll give you a little hint on is we're going to be radically changing the coolant system on this machine. I've already fabricated a separate coolant tank tray. There will be a video on that. This piece right here, which is 3D printed, is a pretty interesting looking piece, and there's going to be some CNC machining. Ideally, making this out of a billet, we have to make a separate piece that interfaces with this. That piece is going to be about 24 inches long. It's going to be made from a 3.5-inch billet, and it's going to have an 18-inch hole all the way through. So we have some interesting parts coming up, and those are going to be upgrades for this machine to improve the coolant flow and the coolant delivery and the chip collection and coolant collection on this machine. We also are getting a hand wheel for the tailstock. So we're going to be getting that from Lion. They make them for the larger machines, so that will help aid and move the tailstock. Right now I kind of keep like a ghetto strap on this thing so I can kind of pull it, but you can kind of see, takes a fair amount of effort. And we talked to Johnny at International Machinery, and we're getting basically a hand wheel so we can crank that tailstock on the rack. So that's just kind of a sneak peek of some, but not all, the modifications we have coming down the pipeline for this machine. And I'm trying to put that together into a few videos for you guys, and especially some of these more interesting parts and some other parts that I'm not showing. Those will make for some really great content, so watch out for that. Moving on to the next topic. A couple of you guys may notice this area looks a little bit different, kind of blank. I've gone along and basically taken probably 4 or 5 areas in the shop and dramatically reorganized those areas to make the shop more efficient, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Over there, we have a large area where I collect my scrap metal, and that area just had a series of bins just kind of scattered together on the floor, and they were encroaching into someone else's space. So finally, I built like a custom pallet rack so I could get all the barrels up off the ground, and it just looks a little bit tidier. Over by the door, we did build that giant metal rack earlier in the year, which is super nice. But we had a smaller rack next to it where I kept the bronze and stainless. And since we do a lot of that type of stuff, that material was kind of, just stacked and hard to see. So I went ahead and built a medium duty shelf right next to that heavy duty shelf where we can kind of stack all that material and I can see exactly what we have. And then another area is the area by the doorway. That area has been kind of a disaster for forever. So we went ahead and built a custom eye hook rack. We finally mounted our ZT Fab TIG holders and holders for our stick rods that I've been holding on to for years, and got all the junk off the floor so that it can be nice and clean. We did some other organization here in the middle area of my shop, which right now is kind of like a parts staging area for jobs and for stuff that's going out. We're going to be getting rid of a Lista cabinet, and we already gave away a grinder and just a couple other small things. So hopefully once we get the boring mill back together, that space in the center will free up like a good 15 by 15 square area. And ultimately I'm just really trying to create space in this shop. I feel like I have a different approach to most machine shops that I've been in. Most machine shops will collect any and every little tool and part because one day you might need it. And although that logic is good and that allows you to be able to do a lot of different jobs, what I have found is that many of us just accumulate a lot of stuff and we don't use it for 5 years. Not only is that stuff not getting used, but it's taking up space, it's clutter, sometimes it creates mental clutter, and ultimately it's just not fruitful in my opinion. So I'm trying to thin down a lot of the stuff that I have, and if I haven't touched it in a year or 2 or 3 years, it's out of here. And I'm really trying to laser in and focus on what I do every day and trying to get rid of stuff that's a maybe and really just try to free up space in the shop. And it really does help me think clearly. It helps me work more effectively, and ultimately it helps me say no to stuff that requires special obsolete tooling that I've had sitting on a shelf for 3 years, and really focus down on to stuff that we do day in and day out. And I really have enjoyed operating in that manner. So this sort of organization is just an extension of that. But this area over here specifically, we had a shelf with some stuff for the Bridgeport and some junk. And we moved all that stuff off, and we're gonna be getting another milling machine from a viewer. And that milling machine is going to be living in this area, and it is going to be a Bridgeport style machine, but a little bit heavier duty, a lot heavier duty, and I think it'll be a great machine for the shop. So we're waiting for the gentleman to get that machine ready so we can get it out of his shop, but in the interim I made some space over here at my shop, and that's something that we hope to be getting here in the next month or 2, so look out for a video on that new machine. Let's talk about some customer jobs and just the general workflow of what's been going on in the shop. This is kind of that no man's land in my shop that I refer to, where stuff either goes to either die or leave the shop. So we had this large job, and you guys probably watched this video a couple weeks ago, and it's still sitting here. We're waiting to get rid of that. We have our coolant tank / tray that we built for the new machine. It's not finished. I've just been, finishing it up when I have free time. I just got to paint the exterior. We have a Lista cabinet that's going to Stefano, and we have, the boring mill starting to get covered in junk. So just a quick update on the boring mill. Daniel's going to jump back on that in a couple weeks, and so am I. I got to make a lead screw, so hopefully we'll be doing a video on that. But he had a big job and just decided to take a break, which is totally fine. And so he's focusing on that, but once that's done, he'll be back over here to continue on with the Lucas boring mill. As far as jobs in the shop, it's been relatively busy. I've definitely seen a shift in the type of work that I've been doing in the last month or 2. There's definitely been a little bit less heavy duty stuff, which is a little unfortunate aside from these 2 jobs, because I like that type of work. However, I have been doing a lot of work for Landon, which is more like kind of science-y, aerospace, medical. It's kind of a different breed. So a lot of stainless, a lot of aluminum, a lot of copper, a lot of weird stuff. Haven't really shown a lot of that, not because it's proprietary, even though it technically is, but more so because that stuff's pretty critical, and every job is kind of weird and different, and so I've just been trying to focus on that job, and I really didn't want to deal with having a camera there. It was something that is tricky and challenging for me. And so there will be more videos on that stuff down the road because we're making a lot of parts for Landon, but that's been kind of what we've been working on in the shop. So we've been working mostly during the week on Landon stuff and miscellaneous jobs, and then when we have free time, I've been working on the lathe and making some upgrades, doing some organization in the shop, and now that all that stuff is kind of settling down, hopefully we'll get back to the Lucas and kind of go from there. Well guys, let's give you an update on this forklift. Man, I love this thing now. This thing has been a nightmare, but I'm starting to really enjoy this machine, and I want to be honest about it. So you guys watched a video of this thing a couple months back. We did some work on the battery. We got rid of our other forklift, and ultimately our other forklift went to Daniel, and he fixed the brakes on that. He put new tires on it, and he's been loving it ever since. And in that time, we actually had a problem with the battery. And I want to be honest and straightforward with you guys because that's how I roll. So that battery we rebuilt lasted 6 months, and it failed. And it failed hard and fast. It worked out well because it gave us some time to get a couple of bigger jobs under our belt, get paid, and get some work done with it on the Lucas. But ultimately, the battery didn't last, and we replaced the battery. Now, I did get a really good deal on this battery, and we bought it from Mark at Chicago Industrial Battery. It is significantly cheaper than a new one. A new one is $11,900, and we spent a fraction of that. But this battery is a 2019 Hawker unit, 850 amps, and it is at 94% left on the battery. So it should give us no problems and many years of trouble-free use. Now, in regards to the actual experience with this electric forklift, honestly, guys, it has been love-hate, and mostly because of the battery. I really do enjoy an electric forklift, and I know a good percentage of you guys don't live in the city, and you are in a rural area, and that's totally fine. I wish I was too. But I'm in the city, and I'm in a smooth enclosed shop, and for me, having owned a propane and owning an electric, I really like it. It is really, really nice. And you know what? On the next one, I will buy a propane for other reasons we can get into. But now that I own this unit and now that the battery is fixed, I really do like it because it's quiet. There's no fumes. There's less maintenance. And specifically for machinery rebuilding, it's really, really nice. When you're lifting up a 5,000-pound saddle and you're able to creep forward with no noise and no exhaust, it's very convenient and very safe. And ultimately, that's kind of one of the reasons I like this. Also, being electric and being quiet, I can kind of run around and do some stuff that in the past I would think, well, is it worth starting up the forklift? And I have the air conditioning in this shop, so let's say had the air conditioning on, it's hot outside, but when I ran the propane, I need to open the door because my older unit was, quite exhaust heavy. And for that reason, I really like this. The other thing about this forklift that is absolutely awesome, aside from the high mast, is it has a very short turning radius. So for this thing being a behemoth, it really gets around very easy, and I really like that. So anyway, that was kind of a little bit of a backstory, but we ended up making some upgrades that I want to bring you up to speed on. We did replace the battery last week. It got rear new tires, which it needed desperately. The tires were cracking, and I got my 6-foot forks, which I'm absolutely stoked about. And these are 8,400 pound, and they have a 4,400 pound rating at dead middle. I think it was like 48 inches out from the center. And the reason why I wanted these forks is because when you're unloading a trailer with a little short 42-inch fork, you get up to the trailer and you can never make it halfway. And when you have machinery, it's always halfway in the middle of the trailer. So to have longer forks to be able to pick machinery up and off the trailer is super nice. Also, you know, like we were moving the saddle, you've seen we had that saddle, you know, 6 inches from the end of the forks, which worked, but a little sketchy. Now, if we put it in the same spot, we have plenty of meat on the end of the forks, so it's nice and safe. And because these are the thicker, more heavy-duty forks, less deflection, just better all the way around. So with the forks, with the battery, with the new tires in the rear, this thing is gold. I really do enjoy operating it, and I think it's going to benefit us for many, many years to come. The only thing that I know about that we need to change is we do have one hose here that's pretty cracked, but the actual technician told me if I wanted to save some money, I could run on that for a while because those hoses have an inner kind of sheath and an outer sheath, and he said that even though they looked cracked, they can go for many years. So at some point I'm going to change that before it breaks, but for now we're going to take a break investing money into this thing because we did dump a ton of money in the last couple weeks, and I really thought hard about getting a new forklift and getting a used forklift as well and seeing what the options are. And at the end of the day, I think as it sits, we're about $7 grand into this forklift. And I think considering that it is a 6,000 pound unit, it has a short turning radius, a high mast, long forks, and a known good battery, I think that is still coming out ahead. Even with all the money we spent on the old battery and having a technician out, I don't know that I could have got something with these specifications for that amount. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm excited to hopefully close the chapter on this ongoing project that we thought we fixed, but then we weren't sure. And you know, if you guys have been following along, I had a goal this year to have or own a forklift that I was proud of. And my wife was telling me, hey, mark that goal off. And I wasn't marking it off because I wasn't sure if I was going to keep it, and I wasn't sure, you know, what the situation on the battery was. But now we marked the goal off because we got a good battery, and it's set up the way I like it. And ultimately, you know, I'm proud to own this. I think it's going to do a lot of good work for us in the future, and you guys are going to see it in all the videos. And I'm happy with this. Daniel's happy with the old forklift. I think I gave it to him for free just because, you know, I care about Daniel, and, you know, it was old. Honestly, that old forklift, it's never going to die. That thing runs like a champ. And I actually gave him that forklift right after this battery died or was on its way out. And for a while there, his forklift was more reliable than mine, which I think is hilarious because that thing's from like the 60s or 70s. And continuing with the theme of honesty, I want to take some time and actually read some comments on our videos and just give my initial response to them. Just for context, we just finished up the impeller job, so we're probably going to get a lot of comments on that one. And honestly, guys, positive, negative, neutral, I don't care. I'm trying to keep a positive attitude here and keep moving forward, and you know, sometimes we got some negative stuff on here, sometimes we don't. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and I'm just going to read the first like 15 or 20 comments and sort of give you my feedback. So the first comment here, it says, "Good work, young man. I have watched you grow so much as a machinist, and your channel, I can tell that you have some real support. Thank you very much. Boss him said." That means a lot, and we're doing the best we can. Trep53 says, "I've been watching your channel for about 6 months. I saw this older video." He's referring to the Subaru manifold video. He said, "It's very interesting. I don't know of a shop that would do work like this in my area. Your work on the project is fantastic. You took this on at some risk, but that's just the kind of work that you can do, and it puts you in a different category than most repair shops. In my honest opinion, what you really gained here was just advancing your skills and showcasing your ingenuity, and that puts you in a different class. There's a saying that says, if you don't try, you will never know if you can. I appreciate the kind words. Honestly, that job was really interesting. If that guy came back now, I probably wouldn't do it just because of time and the amount of effort it takes, but it was a good learning experience, so I'm in agreement with you. Next one is B-Dove. Very good work. It's hard to work with some limitations. Nice job. Really like your channel. ELCH, oh, I think that's L Chuck. You are the man. Great job. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Todd Wood says, great work. We probably learn as much from your mistakes as all of the perfection. He was talking about broken taps, misplaced holes, lathe repairs, and more. So thank you very much, Todd. I appreciate that. Moving right along, we got James Wood. When setting up to retrace threads, start the thread pitch, then stop the lathe in an area and adjust the cross slide on the compound to set up the thread tool in the correct position in the thread. Absolutely, James, you're 100% right. Most of the time, that's what I do. Sometimes I go with a little bit different technique where I can actually move the threading tool in the holder, but for the most part, that's a good way to do it. I do it that way, and I appreciate the feedback. Earl 8850. You are a much better machine shop video show than CEE ever thought of being. Your show is real with no unnecessary content. Very, very kind words. You know, we're not over here saying one person's better than the other. I appreciate what Curtis is doing. I appreciate what all the other machinists are doing. We're all doing stuff a little bit differently, and you know, I'll take the kindness out of it, but you know, Curtis is doing a good job too. So, all right, next one, Brent Barnhart says, I'm an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer, machine designer. I have a machine shop, but do not consider myself a machinist. I try, I have an understanding, but I fall short. My utter respect for a good machinist. I have no words. Love watching you and learning. Thank you, Brent. I really appreciate the kind words there. Yes, Cavill says, I think you have effectively shown the reality of business where not every client needs or wants to invest in the perfect job. I do not think it would be interesting, or I do think it would be interesting to get a follow-up on how the repair is performing from the client. I would love to do that. However, most of the time on jobs, people don't call me and tell me how they're doing. Most of the time, if you don't hear anything, it means it's doing good. And if you do hear something, you screwed up or something happened, and then we go and we make it right. So, but good feedback. Stu King says, I found that it's usually a good idea to go back to the first videos from creators you follow. Usually they're rough, but this one is a gem. He's talking about the video where my wife built geometric artwork. He says, do you have your own channel? For my wife, for her projects, no, she does not. That's not really her thing. She doesn't really do a lot of woodworking anymore, neither do I. But hey, you know, things change, time moves on. Next comment is from Andy Combs. Great work. I reckon you made good calls on the surface concentricity, yada yada. I've spent some time wrestling with galling on large stainless rotating parts, and I feel your pain. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. You know how it is out there. We're just doing the best we can. Paul Curtis says, that's one crazy piece of equipment, lots of complexity, good job. I understand the customer's need as you explain it. However, your name is on the project and I would be very hesitant not to make sure everything is running true and straight with the correct amount of press fit. Machining down the surface on the shaft, building it back up, and then machining down to spec, correcting the bore of the impeller, and getting it to fit correctly on the shaft is a lot of work, time, and money for your customer. But if it's a sloppy, loose fit, in a machine world, it could be more destructive than a quick fix. Absolutely. I'm in 100% agreement with you. Basically, what he's saying there is it would have made sense to get it all assembled, test it, adjust it, make sure it's right. You're 100% right. I wanted to do that job as best as I could, but budget was the limiting factor, and a little bit of time as well. And at the end of the day, I had to make a call, right? I could have said, you know what, we're not going to do the job, take it back, try to find another shop, and I took a risk. Maybe that risk paid off. Seems like it did right now. Maybe it didn't in the future. I guess we'll learn and develop, but you know, we tried to do the job the best we could, and in this case, we didn't, you know, do as much of a thorough checking as we wanted to, and it just is what it is. Hilltop Machine Works, Tom over at Hilltop. Way to go, buddy. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. RS 2024, keep getting this scale job work, and I see a gantry in your future. Give the customer what they need. Nice work. I don't want a gantry. Gantries are nice, but you got to roll gantries around. I have jib cranes. Nothing against a gantry crane, but I will get more jib cranes. I like jib cranes. Kevin says, with a job like this where the client is working with a limited budget and restricting repair costs, there's only so much a machinist can do. This being said, you did a great job. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Ragna, Rion, always enjoy your videos. Thanks, man. Looks like you're from Britain. And then Paul Brown. Paul Brown, every time. Thank you, Paul Brown. Best wishes, Kyle. Cheers, Paul. Thanks, Paul. I love your comments. Gary says, large, heavy items are always a challenge to work on. Just be careful when handling them and do what you do. Do your best. Thumbs up. I appreciate that. I'm trying to be safe, but you know how it is. Nigel says, my 1942 South Bend model uses a transponder gear and cuts metric and imperial. Cool. That makes sense. Mr. Art Vanley says, kudo to the legendary Josh Topper. I don't know what that means. I think he's trolling me, but either that or he thinks that I'm Josh, which, you know, I could see that. Thanks, Art. The Pickle says, mini hands make light work. My Little Mule. Check out Greg over there. It says the Big Lion lathe is earning its keep. And the last comment here, D Forest says, nice work if you can get it. So I appreciate that, D Forest. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of section of the comments. In this set, we didn't really have anything too interesting or fiery, but I just thought I'd read them and kind of, you know, give you an unfiltered response so you can kind of hear direct from me what I'm thinking when I read your guys' comments. So with that said, let's move on to the next section of the video and continue from there. Well, we got some even more exciting news. Now, we are in the early stages of working on the website. So I've had this on my to-do list for years, and we haven't gotten to it because I haven't prioritized it for a variety of reasons. But finally, after 3 or 4 years, we have started on the website. Now, I am not doing it. Stefano has a buddy of his who's a graphic designer and website engineer, and he is working on it, which is good. It means that it's going to get done, and it's going to get done, you know, by someone who does that type of work. So the goal is at some point, and I don't have a deadline on this, I've been patient for 3 or 4 years, so I'm not in a hurry to get this done as long as it does get done. But the goal is to get a good functional website up and running, get a new logo done, which we've already completed, get new t-shirts, which I desperately need, create new shirts for you guys to buy, which I've been wanting to do for a long time, create some channel stickers that we can sell, and even start a little area on the website for some products. One of which I've already started and prototyped, and I have it ready to go. I don't know if it's gonna make sense to manufacture. I haven't decided yet, but I think it's a good product, and I have about 50 more ideas past that. So I think the next chapter of that whole area will be very interesting, and I don't know where it's going to go. I don't really have much expectation, but I think at least at a minimum, I'm looking forward to building a little bit more legitimacy from a marketing standpoint with nicer t-shirts, better logos, better website, and also for you guys to be able to have a landing place where you can go and purchase some swag, some stickers, maybe some products, and you know, be able to support the channel through starting a Patreon as well. So that stuff is all back-end stuff, but I just wanted to tell you ahead of time, you're not gonna see any of it soon. But probably by the end of the year, my goal is to have most of that stuff done. And I wanna do t-shirts with slogans and sayings and pictures and stuff. So I think it'll be really, really cool. So it's finally happening. So once we get there, you'll find out, and I think you'll be really excited about it. Switching gears, I wanted to just highlight a new tool that we have in the shop. This is something that I've been wanting for years, and I was able to get my hands on one of these, and I am very, very excited to give this a try. So what you're looking at right here is a Kennametal Fix 8 tool holder. Look how ridiculous this insert is. Like, look how big that bad boy is. Just as a comparison, here's a normal C&MG insert, 430 size. Look how big this thing is, how thick it is, how bad it is, and it's awesome. I am really, really excited about this. So just a little bit of a backstory. I first saw this style of tool, obviously, from Adam. He had it, and it was called an LNMX series tool holder. It's a tangential tool holder. He did not have the Fix 8 brand, but it was an older style. This has been around for a long time. And then after I seen that, I wanted one, but I never really did anything about it. And I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I watched some of Chris Maj's videos, and he kind of showed me this Fix 8 tool holder, and immediately I wanted one. And the reason is these things are bad to the bone. They're designed for heavy material rates, and they are just a beast. And I love heavy cuts. I absolutely love shredding material. And when I saw this, I knew I had to have it. But there was a problem. And the problem is that Kennametal discontinued the Fix 8 tool holders. And I found it out because I tried to order one a couple years back, and I couldn't get it. The part numbers were in the catalog, but when you go online to a distributor, they could never source the product. And it was maybe a couple weeks ago where I called KBC Tools and got the phone number for a Kennametal rep, because I just had some questions about this tool holder and about the deep boring systems, like how that heavy duty machinery uses the modular drilling heads. And so the rep came out, and I told him, said, man, I really want one of these tool holders, and what's the deal with this? Like, they seem sweet, but they're discontinued or whatever. And he said, all right, here's what's going on. So when Kennametal released these, I don't know, 5 years ago or whenever it was, they had them out for a little bit, and then they started having a problem with manufacturing the inserts. So the rep told me that these inserts were getting like 3 out of every 5 were getting rejected in manufacturing due to tolerancing. So they had them out for like a year or 2 or 6 months or whatever it was, and then they pulled everything from the shelves because they weren't able to properly manufacture the inserts. So for whatever reason, they sorted that out and they got everything together, and they're relaunching this in, I think, September, right? So technically this isn't out yet, but the rep said that he just so happened to have one of these holders sitting on the shelf at his office that they ordered for a demo at some large company a long time ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, and they never ended up doing the demo. And no one really knows about these things. And he was like, oh, like, you're interested? I'll just come by and let you use one. So he came by and he showed me this, and he literally gave me these 4 inserts, which got to be like $30, $40 each, and the tool holder, and he told me that I could keep it. Now, I know that's not uncommon. A lot of distributors will give you tool holders in the hopes that you'll buy more inserts, and that's fine. But at least for me, I'm very grateful that he gave it to me, number one. And number two, we can't get this, not yet. Now, in a month, you could probably order something like this when they relaunch this. But to be able to actually have my hands on it and put it to work is something I'm really, really excited for. And you know, these holders apparently do a really great job, and I just haven't had a job yet where we can put these to the test, but I'm hoping that we can get something going here soon so I can get this guy to work. So, you know, it's not something major, but it's important to me. It's something I've wanted for a long time, and I thought it was kind of cool, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. All right, we're only on the 10th take on this last section here. But it's because I want to be honest with you guys, and I just want to share what's going on with me and also how that relates to YouTube. So first and foremost, I just want to say that I love making YouTube videos in general for two main reasons. One, I like to tell a story, and two, I like to watch other machining content so I can learn, and I like to make my videos somewhat enjoyable and educational and also interesting. But that's not always possible. As I am a business first and a YouTuber second or third, I try to do the best to share the jobs and the projects that I have in the shop. But ultimately, being a YouTuber or making these videos isn't really viable in any meaningful way other than because I want to. As an example, we typically make between $1,000 and $1,200 per month on YouTube. And that may sound like a lot if you are a YouTube hobbyist, but frankly, when you put in about 20 to 30 hours doing a video and then another 10 hours editing it, 15 hours, it really doesn't amount to much. And right now I'm sending half of what I get over to my editor and just trying to bless him with that. And hopefully as our channel grows, he will be able to make more and it will make a little bit more sense. With that out of the way, and I'm giving you that backstory just to kind of give you an idea of where my mindset is at, as the shop has gotten busier, my ability to make videos has been more limited. Now, we have been able to be consistent over the last 8 months or so without taking a break, but it may get to the point where we need to take some time off and sort of recoup. The last several months have been very difficult for me mentally, and without getting into too much detail, you know, I have good days and I have bad days just like everyone else, and I am very motivated. But when I'm working a lot of hours like I do, sometimes the effort of filming a video in addition to doing all the other stuff and not being properly motivated, it's a lot more difficult for me to follow through on that. So far you guys have not felt the effects of that because we've had a significant backlog. So like for the last 4 weeks, I hadn't filmed a video just because I haven't been feeling good. But you've been getting content because we had stuff filmed far in advance. But we are getting caught up, and what that means is if I can't film a video that week because we're busy in the shop or I'm not feeling, you know, mentally where I need to be, then we may not have a video coming out for you that week. And I just want to share that with you in all honesty and transparency because it's my goal to be as consistent as possible. But the reality is life is far more important than YouTube videos. So as much as I want to provide that consistency, I'm going to do my best, but just know if we can't get a video out every week, there's a very good reason for that. I want to keep making videos as long as I can, and ultimately I would love to get to the place where I can hire someone to come in and shoot the videos, pass it off to Chris so he can edit the videos, and I can just work. And you guys can sort of experience me working, right? But until we get there, we're still at a place where I need to take the time and take a 5-minute job and turn it into a 3-hour job just so I can show you the process. And when we're busy, you know, that is a lot harder to do when we're trying to run a business. And so, you know, sometimes we just may not get to it. So aside from that, that's pretty much everything I wanted to address in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed just kind of chatting on Saturday and talking about shop stuff and channel updates. And if you have any comments, let me know down below, and we will see you guys in the next video.